Hello everyone, welcome back to Bits and Bob's Divination. My name is Caitlin and today we're going to be diving in with charms and cards for your next 2 weeks for any energy, insights, and guidance on their way in for you. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Alright, so welcome back my kindred spirits and anyone new who may be joining us here today. If you do normally show up on this channel, if you do normally check in here with me for these weekly check-ins and all that sort of fun jazz, it's wonderful to have you back, and I'm sure you're looking at this and thinking, what is going on here today? Because we have the charms out, we have cards out, we have letter tiles and numbers, we've got all sorts of different things. And so you'll know more as we get to your pile, but it is going to be a very explorative and playful one here today because we are going to be using mostly charms. And I'll talk more about it, like I said, when we get to your pile and keep it a little mysterious there. If you are new though, it is wonderful to have you here as well. So do feel free to subscribe as you go through this if you'd like to, and become a part of our little kindred spirit space here as I put out new videos every single Monday for love, career, spirituality, your 2-week readings, for New Year's readings, and all sorts of things. You're also welcome to check out my Instagram community down below, as it's a great way to connect with the community even further. And yeah, let's go ahead and start looking at these piles. So here for each of the piles, I chose a different piece of quartz. Here for pile number 1, we have this more egg-shaped piece of quartz here, of clear quartz, with all of these really beautiful sort of crackles in it. So that is pile number 1. For pile number 2 here, we have a piece of clear quartz as well, obviously, but this one is in a clear point shape. So that is pile number 2. And then here, last but not least, for pile number 3, we have this sort of bean or heart-shaped piece of clear quartz as well, in sort of that crackly feeling as well. So that is pile number 3. So before you start heading off to your pile, to the timestamps, I love to just welcome you to take a deep and cleansing, grounding breath here with me, to really center yourself and center your intuition, to choose the pile or piles that best fit for you. So let's go ahead and take that deep breath here together. So you're welcome to choose any or all of the piles here and play around with them. All of the timestamps will be down below in the description, as well as with the chapter marks of this video. And I also just want to mention here as well, here at the end, that just a really big thank you for giving me the grace and the time to recover last week, as I was just feeling really crummy with my cold and wasn't able to really give you the video or the reading that I think you all deserved. So I hope you do enjoy this one. And yeah, let's go ahead and get started here with pile number 1. Hello group 1, if you've decided to choose this little egg of quartz, then this is the pile for you. I'm going to be setting it up here today. As I mentioned in the intro, this is a very different setup. So we're going to be doing a 2-week reading like normal, in the idea that we're still going to be looking into your next 2 weeks. But the way we go about it is going to be a little bit different, and we're going to be playing around, experimenting here on the spot together. So do feel free to bring your own intuition to the table here with me. Seek out what things are calling to you. Ask yourself the question why they call to you, and see what kind of sparks for you. But I'm also going to see what I see for you for the next 2 weeks using the charms. We're also going to be using the Charm Cast Tarot here today again, like we did last video, and we're also going to be using the letter tiles and numbers, and specifically one deck in this entire thing, only one deck, and that is the Everyday Tarot. So before we get started, do feel free to get comfortable, get cozy, get yourself in a nice comfy position, take a couple breaths if you want to, just sort of center yourself, and let this be kind of your own you time. And we're going to be starting out here actually with this specific casting tray, and it doesn't like to focus on it, so sorry if it starts to go in and out of focus. Here, I'll go ahead and set your your little egg here so it has something to focus on. But we are going to be starting out here with this to look into first your numbers and letters, which usually I do closer to the middle of the reading, but we're actually going to be starting with letters and numbers here today. So the letters and numbers can be completely random to some of you. I know it's not always everyone's thing, but for some of you, you might be seeing initials, names, dates, places. They might be angel numbers and all sorts. So do feel free to send your energy in through time and space, and let's go ahead and start looking in. So any names or markers or things we need to know for the next 2 weeks for group 1. Okay, not a lot of them, honestly. We're going to see what you have, though. So we have, first off, T-U-A. I was also feeling an L for whatever reason, like Tula, which is, I believe, like, it was making me think of like a Tia, like an ant. And then we also have the letter Y and N, which is interesting because Y and N can usually represent a yes or no situation, right? You're kind of going between yes and no, yes and no. So there could be a little bit of a balance there. I honestly feel like there's a couple more, so I'm just going to pull you a couple more here. There's that L. Okay. So do feel free to see what you see here. We also have the letter K now, a U, an F, and then an A, as well as that L that I was feeling earlier. So see what comes through for you. I saw tuna, no idea. Might be very specific to some of you. But those are your letters. Let's go ahead and move on to your numbers here as well, and we'll see the bigger picture. So the numbers here for group 1, significant to the next 2 weeks. Okay. So like I said, these could be dates. The colors might also have a representation for you, maybe towards like wands being like the 8 of wands or something like that. We also have another 8. So we have 8, 8, and 5. So it could be that just things that are happening over these next 2 weeks might be related to the early days in the month, with the 8th and the 5th, specifically the 8th a lot here. We also have more angel number wise, 8 and 8 or 88. 58, 85, and then I'm also seeing here, just in general with numerology, 5 representing something kind of coming to conflict or a transformation of sorts, and that being around or surrounding the idea of 8, and 8 is making me think of like abundance, and abundance coming in, and I'm almost feeling like in that figure 8 way. So I almost feel like if you feel like you're at the top of your game financially, you might be feeling a bit of a low, and that flipping its head, or vice versa, where if you're feeling at a low financially or abundancely in any kind of type of abundance, so an abundance of joy or an abundance of love or an abundance of gifts or items or whatever it might be, it just feels like it's flipping its head. So however you're feeling right now, it just feels like it's either trying to recalibrate or balance there. Just in general, a message that I was getting. We'll see what else comes in as well, but I'm going to go ahead and put this back over here and get this all situated for you, and we'll pull you your tarot card as well, which this tarot card that we're going to be pulling is going to be sort of the highlight or the main theme over these next 2 weeks. So we're looking for a very specific main theme energy over these next 2 weeks, sort of the thing that bridges throughout the entire energy, an overall arching kind of message for the reading. So let's see what that is. Do feel free to send your energy through time and space for this one specifically, because this one is going to be, like I said, so overarching. So you got here the 7 of Cups. The 7 of Cups is giving me more of that yes or no feeling that we were getting earlier with yes or no, do I or don't I, things flipping itself back and forth, a coin flipping back and forth is the image I just got. And the 7 of Cups usually represents feeling a little bit unsure, kind of going back and forth between things, can't make up a decision. It's like a kid in a candy store. They have all the options. You might have an abundance of options right now, an abundance of to-do lists, an abundance of things to that are trying to catch your focus, but you're not able to like solidify or stay on one for a long enough period of time. So it might just feel, I'm kind of getting like the idea of like, you know, when you get on your phone and you got on your phone for one specific purpose, right? Like you just needed to go to your notes app, or you just wanted to text a friend, but somehow your attention got stolen towards this other app, and then you saw a notification which sent you here, and the next thing you know, it's been a half an hour and you have no idea why you even picked up your phone. That's the energy that I'm getting over your next 2 weeks, sort of this frazzled energy, or like your attention keeps being stolen by other people, by other tasks, by other things that are calling your name, and just saying it back and forth in your ear and trying to get your attention. So refocusing, grounding over these next 2 weeks is already just in general some advice coming through, really grounding back down, reminding yourself of why you came, why you're doing this, why you're working on this task, and kind of constantly refocusing and recentering could be really useful for you. But let's go ahead and move on to the rest of your reading. If you want to see more of this, or you want to write all these down and kind of play around with them for a little while, do feel free to screenshot this or come back to this part of the video. But I'm going to go ahead and move it aside, and we are going to work here with the charms. So for this part of the reading, what we're going to do is we're going to cast the charms on the mat. And the way that this charm casting mat is going to work here today is we're going to look more into that Seven of Cups feeling that we were getting earlier for that main energy and anything else that might be showing up in that main energy of these next 2 weeks. And then in this little noodly shape here, reminds me of a macaroni noodle, this is all going to be more timing based for your first week, and this will be your second week, and then any timing as well. So let's see what you have coming in. Do feel free, as always, to send your energy in. We're going to be doing this with the tarot little charms here from the Charmcast Tarot, and let's go. Week 1, next 2 weeks. There's still more. Okay, so you didn't actually get any more really falling in the center here. We might be getting more in charms in a moment, but the things that you do have showing up here is the Chariot. Upside down here we have, or not fully coming out here, is the Ace of Swords. You also have the reversed version of the Knight of Wands here. And don't worry, I'll zoom all of this in a minute. We have some timing happening here with the Queen of Cups. You have the Five of Cups showing up here in the second week, the King of Swords, as well as the High Priestess. So before we start fully diving in, let's go ahead and get more details with the charms. So as always, do send in your energy. It does really make a difference. And let's see, group 1. Okay, so let's see what showed up here for you. So I'm going to zoom this in a little ways so you can see a little bit closer here. And okay, so again, not much showing up here in that Seven of Cups energy. Everything kind of just bounced out of it, which I find really interesting. So that's just telling me that that Seven of Cups that we have here is really that main energy for you. And you know what, I'm actually just going to go ahead and set this here for you so you can see it there. But that's really your focus, is that you don't really have a focus these next 2 weeks, that your energy keeps being stolen to so many different places. So just keeping that in mind and allowing yourself to recenter is going to be really important. And the things that are maybe going to be stealing your energy might be showing up within these. And as always, as we move through these charms, you might be seeing some of them very specific to you. So listen to your intuition, listen to that objective sort of voice in your mind and see what comes through. So let's just start here with some of the things happening within the timing element. So you have Libra showing up here close to the new moon. So you can look up on a moon app or whatever is accessible for you, Google it, looking to see what the moon in Libra is for the next new moon that will be in Libra, which won't be within these next 2 weeks unless you're watching this like much farther into the future. Otherwise, it just might be something around the idea of recalibrating, rebalancing is going to happen around the new moon this month. Other things that are showing up here on the last quarter moon, which is about releasing things, allowing yourself to release a little bit. We have the tree here. It's kind of like a Christmas tree, but it can also just represent the idea of merriment, of cheer, of kindness, and just doing good in the world. And that's showing up here with release. So maybe you're just feeling again like your attention's being pulled here and here and here and here because there's something that you need to release off your to-do list, release off your load, release off your mental landscape, all these like thoughts and ideas that are just constantly swirling around. So keeping that in mind as well is showing up here. And then just before the full moon, you might have been feeling something around that felt very highly emotional as well. So you might have been feeling like your emotions were really quite high there. So for some of you, that might not be that important to you, the timing element. So we're going to go ahead and move into your first week. And so for the first week, we have up here at the top, at the beginning of the week, a lot of creativity, a lot of new ideas showing up here because we have the ace. Whenever we see an ace, it represents a new opportunity. And you have the Ace of Swords here. So you have a new opportunity right now that might be giving you a little bit more of that abundance that we were talking about, where you feel like you might be low on abundance right now and you're wanting to flip it on its head. A new idea might be coming to you that is a new creative idea that could give you a little bit more cash, that could give you a little bit more cash flow, or something that's just going to come in. I know this time of year personally for like my family and people that I know, it can be very difficult around the holidays, right? We're spending more money, we're running around, we're spending more gas, we're doing all these things, random hiccups come up into the road, and it seems like you're going to have a new idea to kind of combat that, and or you're going to have a situation where someone else is going to be able to creatively help you through that situation. You also have more forward movement here showing up with the Chariot, and the Chariot represents making a decision to move forward, right? It's not that you have a bunch of things that are pushing you to move forward, right? Like deadlines or timing or anything like that sometimes myself, I know I'm quite a procrastinator. And so if you feel like you've been procrastinating and you're needing that nudge to get you to like finally do that thing, the Chariot is telling you that you don't need the nudge, that you can just go ahead and get started. You don't have to wait on that deadline. You don't have to wait for a reason to get started. That decision and the power to start is already in your hands. And so if you've been waiting on something to get started, if you're waiting for some momentum, if you need a refresh in some way, that's already available to you. So moving from that Chariot energy, we also have the pumpkin seed here. So we got more showcasing a lot of abundance. So you have new ideas that are available to you right now. There's a lot of energy that's available to you. Like I said, you have all these cups, you have a lot of options. So it's not that you don't have the opportunities available to you, but it's you seizing those opportunities that are most important. And seeing as you have the Knight of Wands reversed, and this is it upright, because you had it reversed, and this is all about momentum, getting started, more of that Chariot energy, just go, 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 really putting passion and power into something. There's a lot of fear, because we have the Scaredy Cat charm, the charm showcasing that you're a little bit nervous, a little bit scared, feeling a little bit off kilter about this. And so yes, you might have these new creative ideas. Someone might be approaching you and being like, hey, let's try this thing. Let's get this thing moving. Let's get this ball rolling. Or you yourself are coming up with these ideas, but there's a lot of fear there that's holding you back from being able to actually get momentum to create this abundance in your life. So that's something to keep in mind, and maybe why your attention keeps being stolen as well, is to sort of block out the fear. As for your second week here, we have quite a few other things showcasing more on abundance. So let's start here at the bottom. We have the Five of Pentacles, which usually represents, again, sort of not allowing yourself to ask for help is what I'm getting from this, is that there is that opportunity that's come in for you, and because you're a little bit afraid of it, you'd rather sort of stand out in the cold than go inside and get warm or ask for help or try that thing, right? You're already comfortable where you are, even if it's difficult. You figured out how it works for you. And so there's something showing up in the second week that's going to be giving you more opportunities to, again, make those changes. You also have the letter R showing up here at the top. So that might be giving you another letter that maybe you needed with your previous letters, or just in general, someone around Libra who is a Libra with the letter R, or you could also have around this commitment charm. There might be someone or something related to the idea of commitments with the letter R showing up in the second week. Because whenever I see this charm, it represents legal agreements, represents weddings, represents engagements, it represents commitments, promises to someone, right? It represents staying on the path with something. So you're going to be really committed to something to get something done. Your focus might be finally coming back into focus or centering on that promise, centering on that thing that you want to get done. And that might be why you're feeling that renewal around that time. You also have the a few different charms showcasing a little bit of like signs coming in from spirit, possibly from a pet that you recently had, or from a loved one beyond the veil is really what I'm getting here, that is also trying to offer you some help, sending you some signs, helping you to gain some of that momentum and to move through that fear that you might be going through right now. And you also have the High Priestess upside down, which represents that you're not really listening. It represents you kind of put your headphones on. You don't want to listen to it. You don't want to hear it. And so that's showing up here as well, that they're trying to get in touch with you. And there's a lot of like loss in communication, because the the King of Swords here represents a lot of deep communication, really well-rounded communication. And the fact that it's getting sort of cut off and squelched is maybe because you're not wanting to focus on that right now. Yes, you're getting all these ideas, but that doesn't mean we want to focus on them. Maybe you want to focus on other promises and commitments that you've already sort of committed to. And so that means, just like the Seven of Cups, you can't have everything. You can't have all the candy in the candy store unless you can. Unless you have the money for that. But the point is, like, yes, you have all these options and this abundance of things, but maybe you're wanting to narrow it down to those commitments you've already begun and come back to this over these next few weeks afterwards. So overall, what I'm getting here from your reading is, over these next 2 weeks, to really take some time to really listen to yourself, listen to what commitments, promises, and cups and engagements you want to take on, and which ones are kind of stealing or taking too much of your focus when you need to kind of center and ground it down, kind of refine it a little bit. And so yes, you might be getting signs from spirit saying this is the time, this is the time, this is the time, but maybe it's not for you, and that's okay. It's always important to listen to yourself as well. And you also are going to be working through quite a bit of fear around this abundance, fear around asking for help and things like that. So allowing other people to help you out could be really important as well over these next 2 weeks. So that's everything that I'm getting here from the charms and cards. I know it was a little bit different than my typical readings, but I do hope you got something from this. Just in case, I will bring this back as well for you to pause if you'd like to look at everything here. But if you found this reading useful and helpful, do feel free to give this video a like. It really does help, especially when I'm just starting out with new things like this, right? Where there's going to be little kinks and things that we're going to be working out as I do this more often on the channel. But I do hope it was useful to you, and I wish you the best for these next 2 weeks. If you haven't already, do feel free to subscribe to the channel, as I'm going to be putting out more readings in the new year, and next Monday as well, every Monday. And also you can check out the Yule spell and ritual paper that I have out right now, and I'll have new snail mail and private readings in the new year. So with all of that said, I hope you did enjoy this reading, and I wish you the best for the next 2 weeks. Bye! Hello Group 2, if you've decided to choose this crystal quartz point, then this is the pile for you. I'm going to be setting it up here today so we can look at all of the different items that we're going to be using here today for your reading. It's going to be very different, as I mentioned in the intro. We're not going to be doing the same stuff that I typically do for these 2-week readings. It's going to be an experiment, and we're going to explore here together, so it might have a few kinks in the road. We're going to be playing around with it. So do come in with an open mind and just play around here with me, as we are going to be doing a mostly charm-based reading with only one tarot deck with the Everyday Tarot. We are going to be doing letters and numbers. We're going to be doing tarot tiles and charms, as well as all of the charms that I have here as well from my personal charm set, and playing around with various different mats and casting trays and things like that. So I do hope you are excited here with me to explore and see what comes up for you. And yeah, do feel free to get settled and ready to go, and we're going to go ahead and get right into it. So today we're actually going to be starting with the letters and numbers, which I typically don't, but I felt like that was what we should do here today. And because the focus is kind of weird when I set this here, I'm just going to hold my hand here. But let's start here with the letters. So do feel free to send your energy in. The letters and numbers are usually just for fun for a lot of you, but some of you can really find a lot of oracle messages through it. I know some of you really use them quite thoroughly. And I also encourage you to use them to look at different dates, specific timing, as well as any of the colors, using it to find names, dates, places, initials, and all of that stuff to look into the things that are specific to you. So let's see what those are for you here. Do feel free to send your energy in, Group 2, the next 2 weeks. Okay, so immediately I heard aging. So maybe you have a birthday showing up here in the next 2 weeks, or there's just this feeling of, right, like the end of the year, things are moving on, you're aging, you're moving up. There can be a fear there. I do feel a bit of fear. I do feel a bit of like doubt in yourself, or maybe I haven't done enough. Maybe I could have been doing more. But there is something feeling like that kind of doom feeling that you feel when you're kind of pushing it back against time. So we're going to see how that comes in with the rest of this. I also got like again, but we have A, I, G, another A, and O showing up right off the bat, which I think is interesting. Whenever I see more vowels than consonants, it does make me think that in terms of communication over these next 2 weeks, you're also possibly communicating more through nonverbals than you realize, and or nonverbal communication is going to be really important and impactful in the people that you talk to and interact with over these next 2 weeks. So we're going to see how that relates. But the things that are upside down here, we also have the letter W and E, so that can be showcasing a group of people. I'm also seeing like it doesn't fully spell it obviously, but kind of like wedge, like a wedge, but something kind of like, it makes me think of like a door foot stop, right? Someone like wedging something shut or wedging something open, which can cause, a little bit of unease as well if something's constantly open or you're feeling constantly closed off. So we're going to see how that relates, but I'm going to go ahead and just set these over here for now, and you can play around with them as we go. I also see woe here, by the way. I just watched Wednesday on Netflix, so that's kind of on my mind, but do see what comes in for you specifically. And I'll go ahead and zoom you guys in as well. But we're also going to pull you some numbers. So like I said, the colors of the numbers might relate to you for a certain reason. These could be angel numbers, specific ones that are significant to you, or specific dates, or timing even, like specific times in the day. But let's go ahead and see the next 2 weeks for you, group 2. Interestingly, I actually had some like launch out of the bowl, which I've not seen do before, so I'm going to go ahead and pick those up. I didn't really feel that one, but we have the number 17 that came out really quite quickly. We also have the number 3, and 5, 35, and the number 2. 7 and 2 are both in black, 3, 5, and 1 are in orange. Orange could relate to the wand suit. These ones can be relating to possibly like the pentacles. Oh, and you also have the number 12 as well that showed up down here. So you could be seeing these in many different ways: 35, 72, 27. It could have to do with that aging feeling, right, as well. Maybe the age that someone is turning or something else. But play around with them. They might relate to you, they might not. But I'm going to go ahead and put them over here. And we are going to do the next part of this reading, which is where we're going to pull you a specific card from the Everyday Tarot that is going to be the overarching theme over these next 2 weeks. So we're going to be really playing around with this card and seeing how it relates to everything else in the rest of this reading, as well as just other specifics that come in. But do feel free to send your energy in through time and space, especially for this one, as this is such a big part of the reading. So let's see, the next 2 weeks, the big energy, the big moment, the big main stage here for group 2 here of energy. Group 2, the next 2 weeks, what is coming in for the main energy and the bridge between those 2 weeks as well? Group 2, next 2 weeks. Okay, so you got here the 5 of Swords. The 5 of Swords makes sense with that miscommunication that we might be feeling, that feeling also of really listening to people's woe, to listen to when people are maybe feeling disappointment or feeling a cold shoulder from you even, because the 5 of Swords really showcases, as you can see, there's 2 figures on this card. Typically there's 3, but represents someone having it all and one person having none, right? And it can mean that your word has a lot of strength and has a lot of power, or you might feel like you're this kind of, you'll probably play around with this and see which figure you feel more like. But I really do feel like a lot of you don't realize that you might be this figure here at the front, where the way that you communicate is very overpowering, even if it's, not intentional, even though you might not be trying to talk over people or take space from people being able to speak their mind as well. But I do feel like there's this feeling of your voice just always tends to carry higher in a conversation. You might just be more charming, you might be more charismatic, or something like that. Otherwise, some of you might feel like I said, as this is a collective reading, some of you might be feeling like you are this figure at the back that keeps getting kind of overridden, talked over, and that's quite a theme over these next 2 weeks. And again, that might be why you're feeling like you're having to talk through nonverbals, or it might be that if you are this person at the front, that you have to start listening and noticing these nonverbals, where someone's maybe getting upset that they're not able to speak their mind or say what they need to say, because maybe you always talk for them, or you finish their sentence for them, that kind of feeling, right? So that's initially what I'm getting from this card. This card can also just represent like also a need to win or to have your voice be most important in the room. There's this feeling of like competition or competitive nature as well that can come through this. So maybe seeking peace or a ceasefire there to create more balance, or to talk it out with this person. If you're noticing this sort of unaligned power kind of dynamic that's happening here. So that's what I'm really getting here for your main message. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the rest of your reading here on the main mat, and casting cloth here. So do feel free to pause on this if you want to look at it further, but we're going to go ahead and move on over here to the main stage, and I'll go ahead and zoom you out. But what we're going to be doing here is starting out using this cloth to look again into more of that main energy, so more on that Five of Swords, but also anything else that shows up here as your main energy. And then we're also going to look to possibly timing around moon cycles, or just in general the idea of the moons and the ways that they interact with the rest of your reading. And then in these little I see them as little macaroni noodle shapes, we're going to look into week 1 and week 2. So with that in mind, do feel free to start sending your energy in, and we're going to look into first tarot tiles and then charms on top of it. So we're going to see how they interact today. Like I said, we're going to be exploring here. I haven't used these tarot charms too much on the channel yet, but mostly just in my own personal or private readings. But let's see what you have here today. So group 2. Okay, so your charms just in general already just physically felt really clunky, like your words or the way that you communicate is feeling kind of clunky in some way, or your energy feels a little sludgy. So we're going to see where that comes through, but we too have the Emperor, which definitely makes sense with that energy we were getting earlier with that Five of Swords. The Emperor has a lot to do with sort of it's my way or the highway kind of feeling, and again, it doesn't mean you're intentionally trying to be that kind of person. Sometimes we just don't realize we might be talking over someone, or kind of taking the mic from other voices in the room, or voices on a societal level, or anywhere in between there. But that's kind of something that's going to be coming up in your awareness over these next 2 weeks. Over on week 1, we have the Six of Pentacles as well as the Seven of Wands. And here on week 2, showing up kind of upside down, so these are still subject to change, is the Six of Wands. We have the 7 and the 6, as well as the Hierophant. So we're going to see how this all plays out as we move through the rest of your reading. Interesting that it all aligned here. But we're going to look into first getting your charms out on the cards, and on the rest of the casting cloth. So let them join in as well. So do feel free to send your energy in, and let's see what little trinkets and bits and bobs show up here for you. Okay, so let's see what showed up for you. So you actually don't have anything showing up here at the bottom of the cloth, so I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in that close and see more of this upper feeling. So, okay, as we go through this reading, as it is explorative, and just in general, charms love to be very talkative. So if you start seeing this and you see this as Taurus, or you see the green as something else, or you see a key for a different reason than what I say, and it feels very intuitive and objective for you, then listen to that intuitive element, because I think that's always really important to co-create these readings together. But let's go ahead and start here with the first part of your next 2 weeks. So the first week. So we didn't honestly get a lot of charms. A lot more of your charms fell over here in week 2, especially here at the top. But I do feel like these are related to both weeks. So we're going to see what shows up here. Interestingly, you have sort of a nod to 2 charms that are almost the exact same charm. One's just like a smaller version of it. So I find that really interesting. So maybe we'll actually start with timing. So here with your timing right before the new moon, which we are going to have a new moon in Sagittarius coming up, I believe, still for the month. You might be watching this in the future though, so do look up your own specific new moon that's coming up for you, and that might give you some dates and timing of this event that might be happening within the second week or kind of bridging into the second week. We have the number 13 showing up. 13 usually represents a ending of sorts. It's related to the death card, especially in this color. So I feel called to something kind of releasing, or it really feels like a relief, honestly, is that I'm getting like a monkey off your shoulders, a relief feeling that's happening around the new moon, and it's related to this same charm. I'll go ahead and pull them both up since I've been talking about them so much, but we have the key, but it's the key to your heart, right? We have the key to your heart, and so they feel related in some way, and we'll talk more about it as we get closer into this week. But just in general, timing wise, something that might be feeling like relief is something in your heart space finally having relief there. Maybe finally someone is going to say the thing that they need to say to you. Finally you're able to maybe get something off your chest and you feel relief there. It could be a surprise you've been holding for a loved one, surprise, or a secret, or something, like I said, where you're kind of having to hold back your communication, hold back your tongue a little bit. And I think there's going to be a lot of relief there, especially since in the first week you might be battling that feeling to want to talk, to speak over someone, or to give out information, to even gossip possibly, because here we have the Haya charm, which usually represents saying hello to someone or wanting to get someone's attention in some way, and that's also showing up here with a selfless act. Whenever I see the bobby pin charm, it represents a selfless act because the bobby pin doesn't get, acknowledged for holding your hair back in these beautiful things, right? They get hidden. So I do feel like you're going to be wanting to, and you're kind of battling, especially since the Seven of Wands usually represents a battle. You're kind of battling with the kind of coming to grips with the fact that you can't speak about something. It could be a secret about a gift, right? Because we're gift giving a lot around this time of year, for a lot of you around the holidays, for a loved one, and that might be why there's a lot of relief there. But there is something showing up here of kind of battling to say something to someone, to maybe contact someone, or battling the idea to kind of hold back and let someone else speak. The things that are happening here also on the first week, you have the throw caution to the wind charm, because this represents the caution hat. It reminds me of like a hat you would put on at like a construction site, right? You put your caution hat on, you're feeling safe, you got your safety measures, and this is throwing it to the wind, and yours kind of fell between. It's kind of throwing it to the wind, but not fully. And what you're throwing to the wind, or feeling like you want to throw to the wind, which I think is interesting as well, is more to do with gift giving, because or wanting to sort of speak up for someone, to advocate for someone, because this represents the Six of Pentacles, and the Six of Pentacles is all about kind of a balance of giving, right? Some of us are in the less fortunate situation, some of us are in the more fortunate situation, and we're able to give a little bit more, a little bit less. And this can also be giving with our voice, giving with the power that our voice holds. And you might be wanting to speak up about something, advocate about something, say something, and that might cause a little bit of a fight or controversy as well over these next 2 weeks. So that's also coming in. As for the second week, the things that we have showing up here, like I said, we had a lot showing up with that heart, that key to your heart, to opening your heart in some way. And that is around someone who might be here, a Cancer, in their sun, moon, or rising sign. Could also even be yourself, opening up to yourself. And it fell on the side of the oracle message of imagination. So right now you might have been daydreaming to speak to someone, or gaining the courage to speak to someone, to speak your heart, your truth, to someone. And like I said, you might be wanting to contact someone, not necessarily even for a selfless act, but I also can feel this feeling of like, for some of you in a more romantic sense, maybe you've been holding back some feelings and not actually saying them out loud. But there's something about gaining courage there, because we have the Helen Keller charm, and this also says spirit of courage right here at the bottom. I don't know if you'll be able to read it, but it's about having the courage to speak up, and maybe speak up in a way that you weren't expecting, right? Helen Keller, she was both blind and deaf, and so she had to really speak in a very different and unique way. And so maybe you're going to have to speak someone else's language, try to understand and find those nuances. So that's showing up here. It also might be with a Taurus, like I said, some of you might be seeing that. It also can be that you might be feeling stubborn, or the person that you're speaking to might be feeling very stubborn, and maybe not fully understanding it. If you don't speak their language, they might not really get what you're trying to say, because we do have the Six of Wands, and the Six of Wands usually represents a victory if upright, but it is actually upside down, which represents that you're maybe not getting the response you were hoping for. And so that maybe is still going to make you feel like maybe you shouldn't say what you're going to say, or maybe you should back out. But I still think it's important to just speak your truth than it is to bottle it in. So even if it might not be the best result, I still think it's important to have that open communication. And like I said, they might just be bullheaded or feeling like they need to put up a front, or they're not really ready for it. But just in general, if it's not a romantic sense, you're going to feel more courageous in the second week, more imaginative, more open-hearted, and also maybe feeling a bit disheartened or stubborn about the fact that maybe a victory that you were hoping for, or something that you were hoping to go successfully, maybe doesn't. But that doesn't mean all is lost, because it might be changing things up for the better, because we have the Hierophant, but it's also upside down, which represents a change, a needed change from tradition, a needed change from the status quo. And so that's also going to open your mind to new possibilities, open your mind to new imaginations, open your mind to allowing yourself to have a little bit more courage as well to speak up against tradition. So overall, your main message here, and I'll bring this back, is the Five of Swords. So if you get anything out of this reading, it's to be very aware of the way you communicate, how your communication, both non-verbally and verbally, can maybe overpower other people's voices, because here in the middle we had a lot to do with that idea, and there's a lot to do with the way that you communicate. If you finally say what needs to be said and getting it off your chest and getting the relief there, and maybe it won't give you the best results, but it's still going to be better than not. There's a lot of battling, a lot of change, a lot of shifts that are going on. So definitely be gentle with yourself over these next 2 weeks and allow yourself a little bit of grace. You're not going to be perfect, but being more aware is really important in terms of communication especially. So those are all of your charms and cards here. I do hope that this reading was useful to you and helpful to you over these next 2 weeks. And if it was, do be sure to give this video a like. Like I said, we're still experimenting here, so I really do appreciate you exploring here with me. And if you'd like to keep up with these types of readings as I perfect them and learn through them with you, do feel free to subscribe, as I put out new readings every single Monday and into the new year. And you can also check out the different ways you can interact with this channel with my Instagram down below, the different offerings that I provide, and the Kindred tip jar down below as well. And I do believe that is everything. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time out of your day to sort of reconnect with yourself. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, Group 3. If you decide to choose this heart or bean-shaped piece of quartz, then this is the pile for you. We're going to set it here for your reading so you can look at it as we go through it, because today is going to be a very different type of reading. Yes, we're still going to be looking into your next 2 weeks, but we're going to be doing it in a very different and very new and explorative way on this channel. So do give me a bit of grace. We're going to see what comes through. It might be very specific. It might be very open-ended. It might be very playful or very direct. All of the readings have been very uniquely different, so we're going to see. But I hope you do come in with an open mind and just play around and explore here with me. We're going to be using the charms as well, and mostly the charms, honestly, today, with the letter tiles and numbers, as well as the tarot charms too, with the Charmcast Tarot. And we're only going to be using one deck today, and that is the Everyday Tarot. And on top of that, we're not even going to be starting with the deck. We're actually going to be starting with the letters and numbers, which is very different for me. So do feel free to get settled, get grounded, to really take your time throughout this. And let's just start here first with this little tray here to look into your numbers and letters. And so I always like to say with the numbers and letters that these are very open-ended. You can play around with them. Some of you are going to find them just silly and frivolous and fun. Some of you are going to find them very specific and like honest. So we're going to see what oracle sort of messages come through this, letters, dates, numbers, places, all that kind of stuff. So if you're ready and settled, let's go ahead and begin. So here we go. Group 3, the next 2 weeks. Let's see, group 3. Okay. So, for whatever reason, I got sort of FOMO. Like I was feeling FOMO, like, like fear of missing out. So I'm feeling like some of you are worried you're missing out on something over these next 2 weeks. We are around the holiday season as of when I'm posting this, so I could see that it could be related to that. But just in general, you might be feeling like as we hit the end of the year, and it's kind of funny because I was also seeing this in group 2, the idea of like whenever we hit a new year or we're heading towards the end of a year, right? Some of us feel like we missed something or we didn't achieve something. And I think just giving yourself a little bit of grace and remembering like a year goes by very quickly and there's a lot we want to jam pack into it. And, we're not always going to hit everything, but think of all the things that you did hit, I think is important to focus on. So the letters that we have here are Y, F, F, and O showing up here right off the bat. So there is some clear communication showing up here since we have more consonants than vowels. Other things that are showing up here, we have the letter A, O, M, so I got foam, more FOMO, interestingly, is showing up here as well. You also have the letter U and B, B-A-U. I see sort of mom almost. Like I said, I felt foam as well, foam making me think of like the phone or like communicating through the phone, a lot of over the phone FaceTime communication possibly over the next 2 weeks. That's going to be really important for you and impactful, as well as like foam made me think of like sea foam. So maybe you're traveling to somewhere with sea foam or something like that. But that's what I'm really seeing here. I'm not really getting too much else. I'm not really getting a lot of names or anything specific, but you might be. So do feel free to mix these up and see what comes up for you. We're going to now move on to those numbers. I'm going to zoom you in so you can see a little bit closer. So these have different numbers in it. So this could be different dates, specific times, angel numbers, messages from spirit, or they also can be related to the colors that you're seeing here too with like color theory. So let's go ahead and see. Okay, so the ones that you got here are 4 and 5, so 45, 54. We have another 5 showing up here. 5's usually representing big change or transformation, shifts and options for change there. We have the number 9 and 6, as well as 7. So the numbers might be significant because of the color. So the 4 being maybe related to the 4 of Cups, 9 representing more of like that fiery energy with the orange or the red, and then this being more stable like the Pentacles or the Swords. So you can see it in that way elementally, or you can just see it however works for you, but do feel free to mix these up as well and see what comes through for you. We have a lot of we have fully numbers that are all single digit, so that also tells me that whatever's happening over these next 2 weeks are significant to something that happened or are related to maybe things that are happening over the very beginning of the month. So keeping that in mind as well. So let's go ahead and move on to your main stage here. We're going to pull one card, and we're only pulling one card throughout this entire reading from this deck, and this is going to be the main card. This is going to be the overarching message, the main stage energy in your life over these next 2 weeks, and how we can really focus on that and how it relates to the rest of your reading. So do take your time with this one. Do feel free to send your energy in, and let's see what comes through. So group 3, or the next 2 weeks, what is this main stage energy coming through for you? What is most important to highlight? So we have the Two of Swords. Interesting. So the Two of Swords has a lot to do with listening to your intuition, right? They're blindfolded here. And the swords represent ideas. They represent communicating with someone. They represent paths that you're taking or a decision to make. And you can see they kind of cross their arms. They're crossing their arms, and it just feels like you're at a fork in the road, or wires have been crossed, communication got crossed. I also am seeing here like the idea of your intuition coming through quite strongly as well with the blindfold. So needing to either communicate in a different way than you're used to, or listening to your other senses just came through as well over these next 2 weeks, like taste and touch and things like that, as a way to communicate with your body and communicate with the needs that you have. That went many different ways, right? We have indecision, we have intuition, we have chords and communication crossed wires. So the main message I'm getting here so far, and we'll see with the rest of the reading, is just to really listen to your body and listen to that sort of gut feeling within you to help you make a decision and to work through situations of miscommunication. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and move this off screen. So do feel free to pause or screenshot this if you want to look at this later. But I'm going to go ahead and move this over here so we can look at the main casting cloth here, as we are now going to split this up into a couple of different sections. So here in the center is going to be relating more to that Two of Swords energy, the main energies, the big stuff. And then we're going to look into these sort of noodle shapes here to look into your first week and your second week, as well as any timing messages or other oracle messages related to the moons. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and start first with the charmed tarot messages and see what comes through. So what does the Charmcast Tarot have to say for group 3? Okay, so the things that we have here, we have a couple showing up here or really just one. We have one kind of bridging the gap between the 2 weeks. We have one showing up here in week 1. We have one showing up here all the way over here on a moon phase. And then we also have one showing up here in the center. So with that in mind, I'll go ahead and speak on each of these as we go. But let's go ahead and get those charms a little bit more substance, a little bit more depthening, a little bit more rounding off with the charms here. So do feel free to send your energy in here as well, and then we'll get right into those. Okay. So, all right, we have a lot happening in week 1. That's for sure. There's a lot more happening in week 1 than week 2, surprisingly. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom you out so you can see a little bit closer here. But what we have showing up here, let's start here in the center. So here in the center, the main stage energy, we're going to start there. Honestly, like literally barely anything fell into the second week, which I think is really interesting. But here in the first part of your next 2 weeks, right, I'll go ahead, since there's nothing over here anyway. Move your Two of Swords over. Can't speak today. We have Temperance here as the big main stage energy. So Temperance is all about a balancing, a mixing and mingling of something. So where maybe you feel like you have to make a decision, it might be that you just need to mix and mingle something. Maybe you find common ground, or some sort of compromise is showing up here for you over these next 2 weeks. Go ahead and let you see those even closer. But over these next 2 weeks, what's really important is really listening to your intuition and your gut, and how you can maybe cross those wires in a more useful and impactful way. So maybe you have two sides of your family that are meeting, and it just feels kind of like, or two opposites just in general that feel like they're meeting, and you're finding the balance there. There's something about finding balance there. And you might be going and seeing someone. There's a lot to do here with travel to see loved ones, friends, or people who are very loyal and very a part of your life, right? Chosen family, things like that are showing up here. So you might be traveling to see them. That doesn't mean you have to travel cross country. It just means that you might be traveling to see someone just down the road, right? It doesn't have to be a big hop, skip, and a jump, right? But it does seem like that's going to be happening and very important, and might even be the type of people that are going to help you find a middle ground here between these opposites that are showing up within your next 2 weeks. So right now, if you're feeling like you're between a decision, or you're between two different people, or you feel like just something's kind of polarizing and pushing against each other, whatever that may be, energy, skills, a career path, whatever it is, something's kind of pushing and pulling against each other. And I think that they might be able to help you as well by traveling and seeing these people who you really trust. You might be able to speak to them and have a heart-to-heart, because we do have something showcasing that this situation is also a very divinely timed situation. So over these next 2 weeks, it's like a really good prime time to bring this up as well, if you've been kind of teetering about asking someone or wanting to talk about it. This is a great prime time for it. Alongside that, you also have here in your main stage energy showing up here over the next 2 weeks, the successful star. So whenever I see this, it also represents a really beautiful success or wish kind of coming true. So that's a really beautiful thing to be seeing over these next 2 weeks as well. And it might be related to the situation. It might just be helping to create a little bit of balance, because temperance also represents balance, things within moderation. But that being a main theme, it's really nice to see that could be very successful by having a talk, or that this situation that you're trying to find common ground with, to kind of take two extremes and find common ground with, can be very successful as well. So that's what we have showing up here for your main stage energy. But over here at the top, we have a couple of other things showing up here. So for your very first week, going into week 1, we have the tarot card here upside down and I'll turn it right side up so you can see it, of the 7 of Swords. And the 7 of Swords is sort of an interesting card. And what I'm getting here is that the reason why there's a bit of a polarizing feeling around this situation is because there's misinformation. Whenever we see the 7 of Swords, it represents, right, they look a little sneaky. They're stealing these swords. Are they taking these swords to get cleaned? Are they giving them to a friend who asked for them? Who knows? We don't have the context. And so the point is that right now, what might be bugging you is that people who are kind of polarizing or are on extremes around you, the people you might be interacting with, or yourself, where that extremity is coming from, is really bugging you because you have misinformation, right? So we have the bug here. It represents, it's really bugging you. It's really needling at you. It's really on your mind. It's kind of like messing with your intuition, messing with those gut feelings, and kind of causing a bit of anxiety. And the things that are also showing up here between both week 1 and 2 is the 5 of Pentacles. And the 5 of Pentacles represents asking for help or gaining some guidance on your situation, and that they're going to be a really healthy and useful tool to you. And the reason why I say they is because you also have the plane showing up here twice in your reading. So either, again, you're off to go see someone, or you're off to talk to someone who, again, is very close to your heart, or someone you can have a heart-to-heart with. And in that situation, that's going to cause a little bit more of that upset to kind of mellow back out, to kind of feel a little bit more at ease. And that's going to come from that beautiful warmth and considerate care and compassionate care that's going to come from those who you are maybe traveling to. Again, I talked about FaceTime showing up, so even if you can't physically be with them, finding a way to travel, letting your voice travel over the phone even. And there's also going to be really big opportunities that are showing up for you personally over this next first week, that are going to help you really grow as a person as well and give you the tools to communicate even better. So those are the things that are happening here in week 1. But really, like I said, don't actually have anything showing up in week 2 over here. I just have this moved over here so you can see it, but you don't actually have anything showing up here in week 2, which I find really interesting. It's staying quite mysterious. It's not really telling us everything. This was between week 2 and week 1, so it could just be that energy of asking for help might be happening in week 2 as well as week 1. But when we're talking about that heart-to-heart that might be showing up here with someone, we have this even upside down. So it could be that this opportunity could be easily missed, right? We talked about divine timing, and that this is a very divine, and whether you believe in like divine things like that, divine timing, just in general, this is a really good piece of time for you to really have these conversations and to really hash this out with someone or with yourself to find that balance. And that's showing up here again on a timing. I don't even think it matters what moon it showed up on. I just think that this heart-to-heart needs to happen around the right time, or it won't happen at all, right? Because it didn't fall upright, showcasing it will happen in the second week. It seems that it's going to be up to you to make sure that this heart-to-heart happens, or that this thing that is bugging you, this misinformation, this framing of a situation that's so polarizing and extreme, can't come back into balance without the support, or without seeking out support from loved ones, from care, from those even that are in your community or other places and resources online even, that can give you the information that you need, that you're seeking, or the advice and comfort and compassion that you're seeking. So I think that's the most important thing over these next 2 weeks, is to just seek out those people to help you through the situation in which you are currently possibly trying to move through these extremities. So that's really what I'm getting here for your reading. I think it's just reminding you it over and over and over again. So I don't want to, drive it home too deeply. But those are the things that I have showing up here for your next 2 weeks, or more like next 1 week and a mysterious second week, that is very much decided upon what happens in the first week. And I do hope this was useful to you, though. So I hope you had fun exploring here with me. I hope you found little bits of information. If you did, please let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you, and any feedback that you have. And also, do be sure to give this video a like if you did enjoy it and found something useful in it. And if you haven't already, do consider subscribing as well, as I put out new readings every single Monday, and we'll continue to do so into the new year. So with all of that said, do feel free to check out the other ways in which you can also connect further with the community with my Instagram down below, but you can also check out the offerings that I have for Yule spell and ritual paper that's still out right now for your magical spells and rituals, or you can also check out private readings up into the new year, as I will be changing those up here in the next couple of weeks. So with all of that said, I hope you did enjoy or got something out of this, and I wish you the best for these next 2 weeks. Bye!